Thank you, Dean Gudian. Before we proceed, we'd like to acknowledge the presence of the President of the Ateneo de Manila University, Father Bienvenido Neves. I have the honor to make the introduction about our keynote speaker. Dr. Manuel Escudero is Director General of the Deusto Business School, University of Deusto, since February 2010. Professor Escudero is also a Special Advisor to the United Nations Global Compact and Head of the Secretariat of the Principles for Responsible Management Education until the end of June 2010. He is also Executive Director of the Research Center for the Global Compact at the Levant Institute and a Senior Fellow with the Levant Institute. Prior to accepting his position as Senior Staff Member and Head of Networks at the United Nations Global Compact in 2006, Dr. Escudero was Professor of Macroeconomics at the Instituto Empresa Business School in Madrid. During his career at the IEE Business School, he was Research Dean and Faculty Dean, Associate General Director of the IEE Business School, and Founder and Associate Director of the IEE Executive College. He has written 8 books, more than 100 op-ed articles, 5 public reports, and 20 working papers. He has been Director and Principal Researcher of 20 research projects, among them the labor market in Spain, analysis and reforms, investing in the fastest growing economy of Brazil, strategic partnerships in the state of Minas Gerais, and priorities for executive development. He has participated as director and keynote speaker in 82 conferences in 23 countries. His most recent books include Libro Azul, 2004, Homo Globalis en busca del bien gobierno, La implantación del Pacto Mundial en las empresas españolas, en pleno empleo. Dr. Escudero's public sector experience in Spain includes his role as director of the Ministerial Group of Thought Leaders on Corporate Social Responsibility, Secretary of the CSR Experts Forum for Corporate Social Responsibility under the chairmanship of the Minister of Labor. He was also Secretary General, Spanish Network of the UN Global Compact, Senior Advisor for Policy and Programs of the nominated candidate for Prime Minister of the Spanish government. Dr. Escudero served in elected office as member of the Spanish Parliament for the 2000-2004 term. He holds a Bachelor of Science from Escuela Superior de Técnicas Empresariales, Spain, and a Master of Science and PhD from the London School of Economics and Political Science. Ladies and gentlemen, here to speak before us, Dr. Manuel Escudero.
Well, good morning to you all. I have to say that it is really an utterly undeserved honor to address you today. Although I represent PRIME, the Principle for Responsible Management Education, as Special Advisor of the United Nations for the Initiative, I have to say that I have stepped down as head of the PRIME Secretariat in order to serve as Director of the Deusto Business School, a Jesuit business school in Spain. Let me show you where it is located. Oh, well, this was meant to be Spain. And just in the upper northern corner of Spain, there is the Basque Country. You may be familiar with Basque Country because it was in the Basque Country where San Ignatius was born. There is the sanctuary of Loyola. And just around the corner from the sanctuary, you have the 2 campuses of Deusto Middle School, one in Bilbao, and one in San Sebastian. The point about this small presentation about my business school is that I would like to address you really today as a peer, just as another dean, as a member of this wonderful family of Jesuit business schools. And therefore, for some minutes, I would like to share with you some ideas, some facts, some trends, but also some dreams, and above all, a call for action. So let's go straight to the point. And the point is that for the last 2 years, and as a consequence of the financial meltdown, we have heard a lot about how to fix business schools. There have been new publications around this theme. One, I remember, very, very recent, from some Harvard professors, talking about rethinking business education. So the point is that really, should we rethink business education? And I think that in order to rethink business education, maybe it is important, it's relevant, to get some historical perspective about it. And you know that the sector was founded at the beginning of the 20th century, basically in the United States, and there is where it grew until the 50s, the late 50s. And in 1959, there was a first great rethinking of business education. The point at that moment is that business schools were not clearly recognized academic institutions within the United States. They were somehow fighting with evening classes of trade schools and the like. So the point was that they needed to rethink what was the consistency and the academic consistency of business schools. And that's why the two report foundations came about, the report of the Ford Foundation and the report of the Carnegie Foundation, under the auspices of a CSD. And these reports, this rethinking that was necessary at that moment, had very long-lasting consequences. Certainly, business schools want legitimacy at that point. We introduced quantitative methods as part of the curriculum, management models, case studies, and out of that, we witnessed the spread of business schools to Europe, to the Americas, to the Pacific region, to Asia. Today, 50 years later, there are 2,000 business schools around the world. And we have to ask ourselves, 50 years later, do we need another revision of business education? Has the environment, the business environment, changed in order for us to merit to rethink business education? And I would say the answer is, in my opinion, yes. Business education sits in the interface of academia and business. We are not really, purely academic. We sit in that interface. And if business changes, business education should change accordingly, should change too. I would say that in the last 50 years, and particularly in the last 20 years, we have seen huge changes in the world, affecting directly business operations. We know about them, about these changes, globalization, they are well known, the IT revolution, as something that has started but has not finished, and we don't know what the new platforms, platforms of internet are going to lead us. Certainly, the only thing that we know that constant change is the pattern that we have in front of us concerning these platforms and therefore the platforms for business operations. Maybe something that is not so well known, and so we don't think about that so much, is about that in these 20 years also we have seen the the emergence of some governance gaps. Simply stated, nation states seem to be unable to serve pressing problems for the daily activities of humankind, of the citizens. We have problems that cannot be solved anymore by a nation state on its own, like international trade, like global terrorism, like global warming, like the need for regulation of international finances. Problems like peacekeeping operations cannot be done by a nation state on its own. Humanitarian aid. And for most countries, the challenge of development cannot be solved on its own. I would say that what sometimes we don't know, what sometimes we don't know is that out of these three important trends, globalization, the IT revolution, and the governance gaps, something has changed also in terms of business. To put it very simply, there has been a huge shift of global power, of naked global power, in favor of corporations. Today, many corporations have a power of decision making that is much more important and affects many more millions of people around the world than the decisions in budget or in cash policies by any single state. Many global companies at the moment, in terms of their turnover, are bigger than the GDP of many nation states. That is a fact that has come about, I would say, not only as a result of globalization, but also with the twin phenomena accompanying globalization, like deregulation, like mergers and acquisitions. And this is part of the story, but there is another part of the story. And the other part of the story is that also out of globalization and out of the IT revolution, we have seen the emergence of a global awareness in the citizens, in multilateral organizations too, for corporations that have won this power to be part of the solution rather to be part of the problems. There is a growing demand, I would say, starting at the beginning of this century, for companies to change. One empirical fact that is very clear concerning this is the emergence of NGOs. They have mushroomed everywhere in any society. And those NGOs usually they have a very clear view that the way corporations operate have to change. I would say that in fact we are witnessing at this moment the emergence of a new social contract on the role of companies in society. And I think that this is precisely what explains the emergence of CSR, of corporate social responsibility, corporate sustainability. This concept that is still, well, sometimes we talk about it as corporate responsibility, corporate social responsibility, corporate citizenship, ESG concerns, sustainability. But, all this is indicating that there are new limits for value creation in the 21st century. Corporate sustainability is a new trend, and maybe a new paradigm. And this new trend has certainly won the battle of ideas. I remember, if you remember maybe too, how the economists in the year 2006 talk about, in a very derogatory way, about CSR, and how 2 years later the economists in a specialization declared that CSR had won the battle of ideas. We also saw that very year too a very celebrated article of Michael Porter explaining how CSR has become a new trend. It's not a new fashion. It's a new trend that is here to stay.